and I think it's important to build that identity. You know, I often refer, like, Grant Cardone had his 10X thing, right? And Gary Vee has his, like, hustle thing, right? And Tony Robbins, do you walk on fire?
So I want to start off with a story. It must have been 3 weeks ago now, and I'm sitting there with a pack of dudes at Funnel Hacking Live, and I see this guy from across the room dressed in a red puffer jacket and slippers. Yep. And I'm like, who is that joker over there in the all red? And my buddy taps me. He's like, oh, man, that's Rudy.
Yep.
And everyone else had already known who you were as well. I couldn't believe I hadn't seen you sticking out with that red puffer jacket. But at that point, I searched you on Instagram. I found your account. And I'm like, I got to meet this guy.
Yep.
Everything was red.
Yep.
And if you're watching this on video right now, we're currently in Rudy's office. Man, everything is red. The carpet, you're still wearing red. Your whole staff is in red. Yeah. So I want to dig into that because as soon as I saw that, it hit me. I'm like, I need a color. I need to pick a color. It is your brand. You are red.
Yep.
Red is Rudy.
Yep.
When did this happen and why?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a big backstory to it. The summary is a lot of the biggest brands and best brands have an identity, right? Obviously, you know that. And I think it's important to build that identity. You know, I often refer, like, Grant Cardone had his 10X thing, right? And Gary Vee has his, like, hustle thing, right? And Tony Robbins, do you walk on fire, right? Like, a lot of people have their brand identity. So for us, originally I was known as the ad guy. I was one of the top Facebook ad people, been in that industry years. But my vision and my goals is big, right? I want to impact the world. And the rest of the world doesn't want to know about Facebook ads. It doesn't matter to them. So for me, it got to a point eventually where it was like more on a global scale. I want to impact the world and become known as a, you know, top business kind of guru and coach and business owner and entrepreneur. And I've always been very extreme. So I'm like, how do I combine the two, right? I'm very outrageous. I don't care what people think. I don't like doing what the norm is. I'm the opposite of the norm. So we just kept growing this brand around a color, and it just started compounding into its own success. A lot of people are like, you're the guy in red. You're the red ads everywhere. I see your red ads everywhere. And I just, like, I'm very good at, I had a vision. I brought the vision to life, and then I follow momentum, so I started seeing more and more momentum behind it. So I just dig deeper and push it more and more and more to where we are today, which is crazy and outrageous.
Man, it's brilliant. And you mentioned Grant Cardone, and his thing is like, you got to get attention no matter what.
Yep.
And red is loud.
Sure.
I mean, you're loud. Your office is loud. The color is loud. It's something people remember. It sticks in their head. I know it had an impact on me, and I'm sure it has an impact in your advertising too. Walk me through kind of the adoption of red. What was that like? I'm sure it didn't happen, and it wasn't a red explosion, right?
Yeah, no, it wasn't like the Big Bang. It was more of a, I already had a pretty big agency, 30, 40 employees. That was called ROI Machines. It still exists today. I'm not involved. I stepped out 3 years ago. We have an exec team that run it, and it was all blue, right? It's actually one of the executives over there, and he's all blue and pimped out, right, in his little blue room, and we're the red office. So I got to a point where I was like, this new business that started around when COVID hit about 2.5 years ago, I originally just built the business and I kept it blue, but then I'm like, hey, this is going to be two big different things, and I don't want them being seen as the same. Red was my favorite color as a kid. I loved red. My previous background many years ago was health and fitness, and I built a pretty big $5 million health company and wellness and fitness company, and that was all green. So I'm like, I don't want to do green. I already have blue. Red's my favorite color. I like interior design. There's a lot of cool red stuff. So I'm like, red catches your eye. So I'm like, let's do red, right? And I probably back then I obviously hindsight's hindsight, but I didn't picture what I'm sat in today, right? It just compounded over time, and I believe everything happens for a reason. And now, and someone said something cool the other day to me. They're like, you're the only guy I know that owns a color. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's pretty cool, and that's part of the brand, right, and what we've become. And now I think, like you said, no one else like does a color thing, so I think that's kind of become my thing a little, and we're so outrageous with it. I think it's just going to keep growing.
And I was going to ask, are you the only one, or is this modeled after somebody that you've met before?
I've not met any. No. Like I said, we kind of fell into it. Like, I wanted to do red. It was my favorite color. I like interior design, so I kitted it all out. And if you go back 2 years ago, it was a fraction of today, right? It was like red t-shirts, maybe in a red jacket and some red icons. And then I just like compounded. And then when events started back up, probably a year and a half ago, everyone started seeing me at events again as a speaker, because I speak a lot, and they all said they even knew who I was because they knew me in the industry, or they were like, you're the guy with red all the time, right? And there was one like defining moment. I do a weekly call with my exec team, and it's called $1 Billion Brand. And it's a big high level strategies on how I get to become a billionaire and the $1 billion brand behind it. And there was one call after an event. I was in the airport in Mexico, and that's when we went from like 50 to 100%, because I was like, another event, right? This is like the fourth one this month. Everyone talks about the red stuff. They love it. So I'm like, this is it, right? So we're all in. And it just kept compounding from there to this.
Right. You start getting a little bit of positive reinforcement, some feedback, and then you lean in.
You look for signs, right? It's like anything. With a funnel or a new campaign or a new marketing strategy, if the signs of success, you keep building on that. I mean, at least if you're a good entrepreneur, right? Some people ignore it, but I'm like, if something's working, let's just keep pushing it until it breaks, right? And go all in. Yeah.
Did you ever think about the psychology of colors when you were choosing which one to go with? Like blue means trust.
Not originally, because I've seen all of that stuff, but I'm like, there's so many variables that make a buying decision right now. And a couple of people have asked, Rudy, red's warning. And I'm like, it is, but there's also $1 billion companies that are red. Coca-Cola, for example, Target, right? So it doesn't mean you can't have a big company that's red, or those companies wouldn't exist, right? Like, I think color brings out emotion in certain areas, but also, so I think there's pros and cons like most things in life. Maybe the negative warning color association is, I think, outranked by the eye-catching, attention-grabbing part of the red, which in my industry, running ads and being a marketer and all the social content, is really important, as you know, right? So I think there's a big benefit there, as much as there may be some sort of psychological negative.
I totally agree with you. I think if it was blue or something, it wouldn't be nearly as loud, capture nearly as much attention.
Yeah, the red's part of it, and I think also just how my brain works and my creativity, because we've got a blue office that I co-own next door, and it's still pretty wow factor. I think the red's maybe a level up, but I spend a lot of time. It's like most things in life, people want what you have, but if they saw the amount of, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to build this, and hundreds of hours at night when I could have been working on other projects or spending time with my family, planning the office, planning the podcast room, planning exactly what things we're going to order, how we're going to position it. And it's not the best use of a CEO time, arguably, but also it's become a massive thing that I think will compound the growth of my business, but it did take a lot of time.
No, I bet, and I think it's worth it because you can kind of feel the energy in this office.
Yeah. Everyone says that,
Right, and the office. I know a lot of the people are just listening and not watching right now, but you've got quite the space here. You've got a ball pit. You've got a wall full of Nerf guns. You've got a sexy accent. Talk to me a little bit about how this was all created.
Sure. Yeah, it's similar to the red, right? Like, I like to be different, firstly, right? So it's generally like in life, if people all do this thing this one way, I'm going to go do it the opposite way. It's just how I am, right? If everyone says you should do it this way, I'm going to try and do it the opposite way. And I've always been like that, right? I remember back in school, I came from England, where obviously, that's the accent, and soccer's really big, right? And everyone in England loves the English soccer team. And for some reason, when I was like 8 years old, for the World Cup, I decided to support Brazil. So everyone in my school hated me because they were all supporting England. But for some reason, I'm like, I'm going to support Brazil, even though I'm not Brazilian, I'm English, and there's no reason except I liked Ronaldo. And I was hated for like 3 months, but I was also probably because I was different and I wanted to wear a yellow top instead of the white English top. So I've always been different. So as COVID hit, everyone was closing their offices down. So, of course, I do the opposite and I open an office, right? I had been remote for 7-8 years, built teams up to 40, 50 employees remote. And the thing that really hit home was every 6 months we'd do a staff retreat. So I'd hire a couple of big mansions in Orlando. We'd fly 30 staff in. And it was like I was so excited for those weeks, and they were so fun. It was like when you were a kid going to summer camp or whatever, right? They were just amazing fun because it's you and your team and a lot of your friends working on your vision, right? So as an entrepreneur, that it's like Christmas Day, right? And I was like, why can't I do this every day? And I'm like, can I just buy a big house and everyone lives there? And obviously that doesn't happen. So the closest realistic thing is an office, right? Yeah. So then I'm like, we started with a small office. I signed a 2-year lease. 3 months later, we left that office, and I just finished paying the 2-year lease. So I paid like 25 grand for a tiny, or 40 grand for like a tiny office I used for 3 months. But yeah, it just started with something. I saw some success. I really enjoyed it. We literally had 2 staff when we started because everyone was remote. I just randomly had 2 staff in the area. It wasn't planned. I asked them if they would come in with me and like the idea. They both said yes, and here we are today. Yep.
It's funny, you hear all these entrepreneurs who want to like retire on the yacht, go to the beach.
Yeah.
My long-term vision is just to have the office of my dreams with people that I've curated that I want to be around all day, and everyone can bring their dogs to work. That's all I ask.
I love that. Yep. Yeah, we bring our dogs. We have 3 dogs, so we bring them in.
Right. It's such a fun thing to get up in the morning and go to a space that you created with people that you want to surround yourself with and build something.
Yeah, people say here adult playground. That was always my vision, and people come in and say that, and that's like where it's like I achieved the goal, right? Like I wanted to create a fun environment, and it's not maybe for everyone, but for a lot of people it's that.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you had some occasions when you were growing up that you were a little bit different than the pack, as most entrepreneurs are. I think that was a very entrepreneurial thing that you mentioned, going against the grain, daring to be different. Most people don't have that in them. That's why they don't start their own companies, take that risk. What was your early on entrepreneurial journey like?
I was the kid in school, like there's probably one kid you will know, I was the kid selling everything, right? So I was like, when there was a new theme every 6 months, there was these new bracelets or this new toy, I was buying it on eBay at like 9 years old with my dad's eBay account that I made and PayPal account I made him make for me. Buying it in wholesale from China, splitting it up, bagging it out at night, selling it. And then I did a bakery. I sold cakes for a half a year. Then I was eBaying games, buying and selling them, making money. And I got banned from selling in school. I was selling so much stuff all the time. And then I became, 15, 16, built a big online gaming community, charging thousands of people. And then this is the summary, right? I figured out websites, built websites. So when I was 17, 18, I became a personal trainer because my background was fitness. And then when that happened, I got ranked 1 on SEO for Google because I knew the power and there was no competition back then. So I hired a couple of SEO firms, figured it out, got ranked 1. So that started to grow. I was running nightclub events. So all my life I've been making money. Like I was obsessed with playing Monopoly. I was obsessed with winning. I was a chess master, like I won all the chess tournaments at my school. And always obsessed with money. I remember when I was like 11 years old, I was walking to the corner shop. We call them corner shops in the UK, right? In your housing estate, there's a little shop area, kind of like a Walgreens, I guess. And I walked past a car, and it was like $2,500, and it had a sign in the window that was for sale. And I go to my dad, I'm like, I could buy this right now. Can I buy this car? He's like, you can't drive. I'm like, why not? And he's like, well, you're not old enough. I'm like, but I can afford it. And like I'd built that much money just from buying and selling that I could be buying a car at like 11 years old. And it was just my obsession with money. I don't know why. My parents didn't have money. I think I realized early on that money was like the world we live in, right? Money equals freedom. It equals fluidness. It equals the ability to do what you want. And I saw at times my parents stressed about money, bills and stuff like a normal family. They weren't poor, they weren't rich, just normal. But they had bills to pay, right? And they had big expenses, and a $3,000 vet bill for the dog was a super stressful thing. So I think somewhere within me, I was like, I don't want to ever have that, right? So, and it's always like a big Monopoly game too. So that was kind of my upbringing, my childhood. It was that obsession around money for some reason, and just always hustling, always being creative, always going against the grain and figuring stuff out.
No, it's cool that you started when you were so young. I wish I would have not only had that drive but opportunity. That's really cool.
But I didn't make crazy money until I was like mid-20s, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of it in those early days, I was figuring. I got my first Facebook ad account banned when like 12 years ago or something crazy. I bought my first house, which I rented out to my friends at like 20 years old. Bought another house the year later, and I still rent them to this day. And one of my UK staff members helps manage them with my parents. So it's always been entrepreneurial, always been driven, and it's just a big game of Monopoly to me.
It sure is. And you still, I don't know how old you are, but you look relatively young.
31.
31. I'm about to turn 31 myself. Nice. Looking good, brother.
Yep.
And you've clearly had a lot of success. You've been making money for a long time. You're young, you're successful. What's next for the company? What's next for you? Where do you see things going?
Yeah, I mean, to me, my goals are so big now because I've seen success and I always want to win and be the best, and I've been around big people achieving greatness, so I've seen that I can keep achieving that. That like people ask me this, and I'm like, I'm so not unhappy, but I'm so like not content with where I am. I want things to be 10 times bigger. And some people would probably hate that, say it's a negative, that you're not content, blah, blah, blah. But it's just my drive. It's my energy, right? I know I always say, you don't join the NBA and go, I don't want to become the hall of, the best in the world or an all-star, right? So that's how I am with business. So for me, it's just 10x in this, growing this. It's growing a bunch of things that are coming my way, which I don't even know yet, because you learn that in business life. You plan 5 years, but your 5 years is totally different, right? So for me, it's just that. For me, it's like the investment in myself and my brand at this point, because I'm a big believer that you can build billion-dollar personal brands. Right, and even like Elon Musk, everyone knew PayPal 10 years ago. No one knew who Elon Musk was. He realizes the personal brand's important now. So for me, it's if I can grow the systems, I can grow the team to support me, I can grow the personal brand, I can keep growing my network and stay creative, I know I'll be successful, and everything will fall into place.
I can see you leaning into the personal brand with not only the red, but the content, which you crush. If you're not already following this guy on Instagram, definitely go do that. I dug in and got a lot of value out of that quickly. We talked about doing some TV. You were recently did the local tour, did some stuff like that. Anything else big that you plan on contributing to your personal brand? Yeah,
I mean, we're doing a lot of celebrity marketing right now. A couple of close friends and partners of mine. We had this vision. I already had this vision. Differently, we crossed paths and joined forces. So, Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather are clients now. We've got a big A-list list that we're working through that we're probably partnering with over the next 2 years. So I think that's a big part of it, growing those brands online, right? And us being the people behind that. My own personal brand, big live events. I started in real estate 10 years ago, and I haven't done any in the US because I was brand new here, had to build credit, was focused on my businesses. My goal is 100 mil of real estate, like on the side, without my main businesses by 40, so 9 years of that. So yeah, celebrities, real estate, keep growing this, big events, and becoming a household name in business.
Very good. What is a secret passion that you have that not a lot of people know about? What do you do behind closed doors?
I mean, basketball, but I think people start to know that. We're very competitive.
I could have guessed that by looking at you.
Yeah, I know, right? So we all play every Saturday morning. The team go. We do 5-on-5s, big passion. So I would say basketball, my dogs, but I guess you get a bit of that on social media. I'm an animal person. I grew up with animals, gave to all my animal charities ever since I was a kid. Even making money as a 12-year-old, I was giving to animal charities. I had up to 8-9 dogs at one point because my mom was a breeder and stuff.
I didn't know that about you.
So,
I had 105 pets growing up.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm probably not quite there, but with dogs, I think we had about 30 over my childhood. So big on dogs, big on basketball, and then just the ocean. I pay a lot of money to be on the ocean. When I travel, I get an Airbnb or hotel on the ocean. That's why I left England. It's always grey and rainy there, so I like being on the ocean and the sun here.
Yeah, #1 beaches in the world. We're in the Sunshine State.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me, final questions here. Name one guru that you follow that you think that other people should get value from, whether it be Grant Cardone, just someone that people have access to and can...
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the super well-known guys, I'm a big follower of, a supporter of. A lot of those people hate and love, right? Like Ty Lopez, I've been partners with for 2.5 years, massive part of my growth. People always ask me about Ty, and he's been awesome mentor to me and supporter of me, and I love working with him very closely for 2.5 years. Every day was awesome because to see how his brain works is just a different level. Even though people might not some of them might not believe that when they see him on social media.
Right.
But big part, Grant Cardone, I get to know more and more as time goes on and hang around with at events and stuff. But yeah, he was a big part, even just through his books and stuff. When I moved to America with a big dream, big vision, I left England because people didn't have that there. They didn't like that there. And then I already came here with 10 times bigger vision, and then Grant stuff helped me 10x that vision. So that's massive too. But here's the thing, I guess the answer to the question, there's not one person. It's about seeing the good and the value in people. But people are very hard to judge. They say, I hate him. But I'm like, you're limiting your learning, right? Because in most people, there's greatness in everyone, right? And it's about looking at the greatness. You don't have to like everything they say, everything they teach, everything they stand for. But most of the time, there's greatness in most people. So it's pulling that out for yourself.
I couldn't agree more. And even though you named two of the most controversial entrepreneurs in the game, if someone's making more money than you and they're more successful from you, there's tons that you can learn from them.
You don't have to love everything they do, but if you, unless you're naive or like selfish, or you're like you have too much judgment, and that actually holds you back, right?
Right. And just to kind of piggyback off that, you can watch these guys and think they're stupid, think they're airheads, but man,
they know what they're doing.
When you get in the room with these guys,
yeah. For sure.
They are ninjas.
I always say, look, Donald Trump, you hate or love him. I'm not into politics. I don't care. But the guy didn't have to appeal to the whole of America, right? But he was successful in what he did, and he's very clear with his message. He's very polarizing, and he won an election from it. So a lot of the biggest and best people in the world, they don't have to have everyone to like them. They just need a certain percent of the population. And I mean, if people were a little more open-minded, they would see the good, good and bad, and take what they want to take for their own personal development and growth.
Be loud, get attention, and deliver some value.
Yeah.
Rudy, brother, it was awesome chatting with you. Where can people connect with you, learn more?
Yeah, I mean, mostly Instagram right now. Obviously, you'll see my ads everywhere. If you say or Google my name, even maybe just listening to this today, you're doomed for life, because I'm going to follow you around the internet on Facebook. But Rudy Mawer Life is the Instagram. If you visit my website, I'll come find you on Facebook with my retargeting ads. The main website is More Capital. But yeah, Instagram right now, Facebook, More Capital, and just look out for the red.
And seriously, guys, if you are listening to this and you haven't seen Rudy on social media, go look, just for the fact that you can see what I'm talking about with absorbing a color as a brand, becoming that color. It is really unique. It's something that I'm going to try and do. We'll see if I can pull this thing off. But go follow Rudy. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks.